Lua provides a nice and extendable way to add simple logic to my application. In this example here, we're going to show a few examples of adding Lua to do a couple of activities. The first is we'll add a Lua function to this button here that will simply print out on our console. Next, we'll use these three buttons here to change the background color of our application. And last, we'll change this text box that you see up here to become a clock on our system. So we'll start off with the first one. The scripts have all been written, so we can see here we're going to use the first example where we're going to simply just do a printf on the console. So this scripts file exists in the scripts directory of my project. Any .lua file existing under the scripts directory, all the functions inside will be loaded and accessible in your application. So we'll come back to our main screen here and we'll right click on the button we want to add the action to, and we'll simply go add action, and the event triggering this will be a press event. We will call Lua. Inside of Lua, inside the information, we will call my Lua function, do the printf. In this example here, we'll pass no parameters to our Lua function, and we select next, and we'll stick with the default scope. So I hit finish. And now my Lua function, when I click on the press event, you can see it calls a Lua function. The Lua function name is my Lua function, and there are no parameters passed here. So if I simply save this, we can come back here and simulate. And now we see my button. When I press on it, we see in the console, hello from Lua, just as we had in the script. So I can keep on saying hello from Lua every time I press on it. So we'll close that and we'll come back to our next example. So the next example is we're going to make the background change from red to blue to white depending on which button we press here. So if I look at the background, we can see that I've already set up the color of the background to be a variable. The variable is at the global level, at the application level, and he's set to white right now, and his name is BKGFill. So if I come back to my scripts, what I'm going to do inside of here now is you see set background is going to be passed in an argument called color. Any argument that's passed in will come in through a table in the map args. So this will be a table, and any variable that you pass will show up in here underneath map args. There's a lot of other context info that you can find out about that comes in through here also. So in this example, we're going to pass color either white, blue, or red, and we're going to set the background fill variable to be the color by the RGB value, and then we're going to simply do a GRE set data, and it will set any variable or data that was set inside the table and push that into the database, and will immediately be reflected on the screen. So if we come back here, once again we're going to go add action on a press. We will call Lua. This time we're going to call set background, and this time we have to add a parameter, so we click on the plus sign, we double click over here, we can change the color, and then the value for this one is red. Once again, next, finish. So now in our actions we can see that there's a press event, it calls Lua, it calls set background with the parameter color set to red. So now if I save this, come back and we simulate, we see when I press the red button, it turns the background to red by setting the variable inside of Lua. The other two have already been attached just for the sake of time, so you'll see here he sets color to blue and he sets color to white. So now I can actually come back into our application and turn the colors back and forth to different settings. So our last example here is we're going to add a timer, and that timer is going to call a Lua function every second, and it's going to change the time on the screen. So if we come once again to the Lua script, we can see it here, set time. Set time is going to set the variable, and so this variable is inside the text box. So here we actually full path this time instead of making it the application level. If we come back to our screen here and we click on this box, we can see there's a variable in here called myText, and this time it has the context of the text box. So it's at the control, so you'll see inside of our Lua script we had to full path it, so we have to give it the layer, the control name, and then the variable name to access the data. And then in this example here, we're going to call os.date, which is Lua's callout to get the date from the operating system, and we're going to get the hours, minutes, and seconds, shove them into that text box, and then use the gre.setData to set them to the screen again. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to set up a timer. So I'm going to say we're going to do an add action, and this time we're going to do this when this screen first shows up. So we'll do it on a screen show pre, which is each time a screen comes up it gets a pre and a post to say the screen's about to come onto view, and the screen is on view. So that's the difference between a pre and a post. So I'll do it on the pre. I'll set up a timer, and we'll call our timer clock. It's going to be repeating every 1,000 milliseconds, so every second, and the count is -1, which means forever. If it was set to any other number, it would run that many of ticks every time the clock ticks. So if you set to 5, you'd only get 5 timer events. So we click next, and we're going to leave it on the screen. So this timer will go off while this screen is alive. So now we click finish, and now we have when the screen starts showing up, we get a timer created, and the timer is going to go off every 1 second. The next thing we're going to have to do now is on the same screen, we're going to say add an action, and every time the timer goes off, it's going to create an event called timer.thename. So this name doesn't exist yet, so we'll come in here and we'll say new. The event name will be timer.clock. We select finish. Now it's inside this list, so we can select it. So every time timer.clock comes in, we're once again going to call Lua. This time the function is set time. We have to pass no parameters to this one, and we can leave it on the screen. So we click finish, so we see every time a timer clock comes in, we're going to do set time. Set time is going to get the date from the operating system, change the text box to reflect that time, and then set it. So now if we come back to our application, we can save him, and we can start him up right away, and we'll see the clock going with the seconds moving. And while that's going, I can come in here, hit the button, get the Lua scripts calling out from the console, and start changing the background color as the clock keeps ticking. So this was just a quick overview of what you can do from inside Lua, and there's a lot more options open to you, and as you start digging deeper and deeper, you'll see how powerful Lua can be as an assistant to making your application come alive.